the city of Chicago is having a lot of problems. A few days ago, I did a story about how Walmart is leaving the city, closing many of its branches. And not only that, there seems to be a large problem with Chicago's youth. Now, there seems to be a problem happening at Millennium Park last Saturday. Now, Millennium Park happens to be where a total of 15 people, 9 adults and 6 minors, were arrested there, and what appeared to be a lot of people gathered there, engaging in what the city considers reckless and disruptive behavior. Let's play this news clip and see what happened.
In Chicago over the weekend, hundreds of teenagers stormed through the streets. They were smashing car windows, attacking tourists. And the mayor-elect, Brandon Johnson, responded with this. It is unacceptable and has no place in our city. However, it is not constructive to demonize youth who have otherwise been starved of opportunities in their own communities, end quote. He added that the city needs to provide safe spaces for the teens. Got it.
Now, I want to quote Brandon Johnson. He will be the new mayor. He is the mayor-elect. Now, what did he say about this? In no way do I condone the destructive activity we saw in the Loop and Lakefront this weekend. It is unacceptable and has no place in our city. However, it is not constructive to demonize youth who have otherwise been starved of opportunities in their own communities. Our city must work together to create spaces for youth to gather safely and responsibly under adult guidance and supervision, to ensure that every part of our city remains welcome for both residents and visitors. This is one aspect of my comprehensive approach to improve public safety and make Chicago livable for everyone. But now, this seems, I won't call it foolish, but it does sound stupid. I will be honest, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Because the problem that Chicago is having is the same issues that we're having in New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, where you have like Cash App CEOs getting stabbed and former fire chiefs getting stabbed in broad daylight or within the nighttime. And I want to play a clip from YouTuber Timcast, which kind of explains what's going on with these cities, and then I'll come back.
There's a mass exodus out of New York, and there's a mass migration to Florida. They say just in the first quarter, 10,000 people swapped their New York state IDs for Florida IDs. New York's in a state of decay.
Hasn't happened since COVID. There's hundreds of thousands. I've heard.
All of these Democrat cities are just ripping themselves apart.
They vote blue and then they don't like the policies and they leave.
But it's remarkable that there is no way in my mind the mayor, people like de Blasio and now Adams, that the mayors or who's the current mayor of LA, but you had, I think it was Garcetti during lockdown. There's no way they did not know what they were doing. Like, I just don't. Gavin Newsom, for instance, he goes to Florida. You guys see this video?
Yep.
He goes to Florida and he says, authoritarian regime, DeSantis banning books. He knows he's lying. Like, there's no way he actually believes the things he says. If you're aware of what's going on, then you've already started making your plans to get away from these cities. You've left these cities. You've maybe gone to Florida or Texas or a rural area. You've perhaps purchased some chickens, which are now creating more of themselves. It's a really amazing thing they do. Not only do they make food for you, but that food could actually turn into more of them, which can then make more exponentially. So you're aware of what's going on. You're protecting yourself. You're learning. You're having a family. You're taking your kids out of school. The end result of this is the policies enacted by Democrats is just causing harm to their own constituents. They are promoting policies that sterilize their constituents, that cause their constituents to abort and destroy their own children. And then they bring about corruption in their own cities. It's almost like this. Imagine there was a civil war happening. Imagine there was an actual civil war and it was Republicans versus Democrats, left versus right. I couldn't ask of anything more of Democrats, right? If you were on the right and you were like, we are going to war, here's my plan. We will infiltrate the seats of government in our opponents' cities and then enact policies that will erode and destroy those cities and cause their citizens to flee to us. Then we will control. Like,
they're self-destructing themselves.
And it all, like, if you told me what happened was Republicans infiltrated Democrat cities to destroy them, I'd be like, well, they're doing a good job of it.
You see, what Tim Cash just said is very important. Most cities that are run by Democrats, people are leaving getting the hell out of there. Number one, it's entirely too much tax. Like, I'm a California resident, and when I move back to the States, I'm definitely getting out of California, going to Florida and Texas. Not for the taxes alone. Republican states are better managed, in theory, usually safe. They have typically better infrastructure. Everything about them is better with respect to these Democratic cities. Now, I remember there was a pretty much of an article I did where the top 10 dirtiest cities in America, all of them were Democratic cities. All right. The reality is, for this mayor, you see, Chicago's had a lot of Democratic mayors historically. I don't think there's been a Republican mayor in Chicago for a long time. And the reality is that their policies just don't work. All right. You don't talk down on single motherhood. You don't talk down, you don't talk or speak for these communities owning where they live, creating job creation, creating family structures there, talking down on the buffoonery that happens there. So you think that you're going to create these kids in these elements of these people that don't have any law and order, and somehow that's going to keep the city safe. Now, Lori Lightfoot, what she tried to do was to pass a budget to run the police of $1.9 billion, up from $1.88 billion in 2022. That was $120 more million, and crime still went up. So having the police there in the city is not what's keeping down crime. These people that come from disenfranchised homes and where there's no resources there, that's how crime works. And the Black Lives Matter liberals and black politicians, and none of you can replace what needs to happen in the home. And when these kids are coming from broken homes, no family structure, no order, there's nothing as a mayor you can do to save that, especially when you praise that behavior in those cities. Like, I hate to say it, but look at the groups that do very well in America. Nigerian Americans, Indian Americans, Asian Americans. Why do they do so much better than almost everybody else? They preach on the behalf of family structure and ownership of one's community and rules of engagement. You have mayors running cities who are making promises, refusing to enact policies. But guess what? Those policies don't work. The one thing that works is people who can reinvest into their own communities, create their own money, create their own standards of living, and protect their women. No society runs without that. That's why Indians who earn, I think, like on average, the average Indian household makes $124,000. That's why you don't have a lot of criminality in Indian households. There's a lot of education. See, there are no programs that pretty much bring these people in these lower class cities or in these neighborhoods into education, into jobs, creating wealth, creating families. Those are the policies that are not there. And you expect these kids to act in a safe way when they're not there. And the reason why, Mr. Brandon Johnson, you don't have any opportunities in Chicago is because of your policies don't work. You've had the opportunity. How many Democratic black mayors does Chicago need? How many for you guys to prove that you don't know what you're doing? Same thing in New York City. Don't know what you're doing. Detroit, don't know what you're doing. Every year you guys have no idea what you're doing. And people are getting the hell out of these places. Philadelphia, overpriced. And all of these people are Democrats. All of them. Let's check the list. Let's look. Lori Lightfoot, Democrat. Brennan Johnson, Democrat. Rahm Emanuel, Democrat. Richard M. Daley, he was there for 22 years. Democrat. Let's see here. Eugene Sawyer, Democrat. Oh my goodness. David Orr, Democrat. Harold Washington, who was black, Democrat. Jane Byrne, Democrat. Okay. So you haven't had a Republican mayor since William H. Thompson in 1931. 70 years of Democratic rule, only to ruin of the city. That's exactly what you guys have done. But guys, what do you think? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. Appreciate you for all that you do. Subscribe to the bell. We're out.